not selling to e-commerce sellers anymore. And I don't know, how do you guys approach that? Like, I'm pretty good when they say, oh, we're not selling to Amazon sellers. I try to convince it, but what do you do when they say, oh, we're not selling to e-commerce sellers anymore?
It's I tried to put that in the blog, but it's kind of hard to like write out my thoughts on that. It really depends. So it's really not black and white. It's just like sales, doing anything else. You kind of have to get a feel for where that supplier is, why are they against it, and try to address those things. For the most part, my initial response to like no Amazon or whatever is basically just writing them and letting, or on the phone, just letting them know that you're not a seller. You run a legitimate e-commerce business. You're looking for strategic partnerships, not just a supplier. And you're looking for products that you can carry for years on end. And you're really looking to build a relationship with that supplier, whether it's them or not. Because their initial, in my opinion, from what I've heard, they don't want to go through the effort of doing, setting up an account and dealing with you if you're going to place one order and then disappear. They want somebody who they're going to sell to for, like I said, years on end. And so if you demonstrate that immediately after they kind of deny you, I found that's usually enough to push it forward. And they're like, okay, that's great. Let's, here's a price sheet. As far as when they're literally like, no, call us in like 3 months. For the most part, I'll put that on the back burner and just move on. Because you do only want to spend so much time getting a supplier. Yeah. Obviously, depending on a product, like if it's just a crazy, like out of the ballpark product, yeah, I'm going to spend more time on it. So it really depends. Like you kind of have to decide how much time you're willing to spend per supplier to get a product. But I mean, that's what I'll do. I mean, James, how do you handle that?
I mean, usually, so like I'll like you said, like I'll prepare. I'll have like a 5-minute or like let's say 15 minutes before I call. Like I'll come up with this first script. Like I'll look into the company obviously, and I'll like bring up the fact that we carry like similar like product lines. And a lot of the time I start the call. Like I've noticed that a lot like they bring up e-commerce and Amazon out of like fear that like you're gonna ruin their brand image if you're just another Amazon seller, right? So like I start by saying like, oh, I have the ability to distribute locally. In my like region, like in like wholesale as a wholesaler, and then that we also sell on some e-commerce platforms, including Amazon. A lot of times, if I start with saying we distribute locally, it's sort of no questions asked, and so that way.
You're basically
I don't have to.
You're basically shifting the focus from Amazon without being deceitful.
Yeah. And if they do say it, then I'll sort of say, okay, that's not a problem, and I'll say I distribute locally, and then I ask them just out of curiosity, like why do you not allow Amazon sellers? And then they start giving me reasons. So then I like quickly I'll like usually it's out of like fear of like us ruining their brand image. So I'll kind of start saying, oh, we're strict about enforcing or following MAP policy and whatnot, and then we'll carry products. We do listing optimization, and so if you let us sell on Amazon, we'll kind of boost your sales in that channel.
Yeah. And I've noticed that's a big thing that they look for. It's not just you jumping in to be another slice of the pie. It's how can you increase the size of the pie?
Yeah, you need value add.
Yeah. So if you can lead with that, that's fantastic. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to be like the best at, ranking products or anything like that. I mean, it could be as simple as running like pay-per-click.
Yep, you could say that's like something that I usually lead in with too. It's like we're experienced with running PPC ads. We also run external like digital advertising, like Facebook ads. Yeah. And so that drives up sales for everyone as a whole. They're usually pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, because they don't like
our marketing budget.
Like, why would they want 5 sellers when they're doing the same amount of per dollar sales volume with 4?
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, if I come in, I'm going to absorb some of that, but I'm actually going to increase it. Well, then now it's worth it for them.
Exactly.
You have to remember, just because you show up saying you got 20 grand to spend with somebody does not get them excited. They don't care.
Yep.
Unless it adds on to their business, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
So
and it also helps, like, to say, like, oh, you'll drive traffic, like to your own e-commerce store, and that's why having a site like the ones that I linked in the on the side,
yeah,
like, pretty well.
because it's a new channel.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely.
But when they ask, we're not selling to online sellers anymore, like the Amazon part, like I got it, you know, but once they say, oh, we're not accepting any more online sellers, do you guys move on, or you just, you know, sometimes they just want brick and mortar stores only?
Yeah, I mean, if it's clear that they have a lot of sellers, or like, by a lot I mean like 4 or more like lists or sellers on that listing, I'll like keep pursuing it, especially if it's got a good ROI. If not, then I just typically move on.
Yeah, it really depends. And I've had this a few times where they don't want any online sellers, but they were willing to connect me with a distributor who is. So obviously, like, you're not going to get the best pricing, but you get pricing.
No.
And it might still be worth it to you. So, you know, that's where the creativity comes in. And like I said, it's not black and white. You really have to play each scenario as it is, and understand, you know, where they're at, what their concerns are, where they're willing to bend on, and kind of where you need to push back on. So like if they're just straight up like, we hate Amazon, you know, scum of the earth, we want to kill you. Like, great. Listen, here's why that's not a big deal. Just doing that enough, and like kind of addressing, because you can write down pretty much like 5 reasons why a brand would be scared to sell to an Amazon seller. I mean, they're obvious in my opinion. So if you can tailor your wording to address those up front, even if they don't know that that's like specifically their fears, they're like, okay, this person's professional. They dealt with it. They understand. They are on our side, and they get it. Like that's, in my opinion, usually enough to like get, like, I'd say at least like 70% to kind of push forward with you, if that's the only issue.
Yeah.
And some have legitimate issues, right? Like, you know, it's just part of business that you really don't want to accept. Like, well, like, you literally cannot sell to me, and they're like, I'm sorry, it's not in our procedures. We just can't do that. We're not set up for it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you say, okay, well, you're not set up for wholesale, but you're set up for going like regional distribution. How do I plug into your system? Like, every business and brand I found has a variation. Not that each is completely different, but they have their own like workflow, if you will, their own procedures. So you have to plug into theirs, versus you just expect them to sell wholesale to you. To us, we're like, why wouldn't you do it? It makes sense. But to them, it doesn't fit their business model, and that's fine. So, you know, you have to, and it's as simple as asking them that question, you know, how would you prefer me to go about ordering in large quantities? What's the best route for me to do that? And they'll tell you exactly how they want it done. And just jumping into their workflow is a huge brownie points, in my opinion, because it's less effort on their part to move forward with you, and you want that, right? You don't want to come in as a high maintenance buyer, because you're like, no, we're good, dude. Like, don't worry about it.
Exactly.
So you got to come in. Hey, I know what I'm doing. It's gonna be a super smooth process. I'm gonna increase your sales. We're gonna do well together, and you're not gonna have to deal with me that often.
Yep.
Like, that is like gold to a brand, because they're like, yes, perfect. You're giving me what I want, and I'm not really having to take on more work to do that. Yeah, that works. And you'll find they'll end up calling you more, just being like, hey, what can we do to help out?
Yeah.
You know, it's really building that relationship on that side too.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
You'll figure it out though. I mean, you just you get a situation and then you just analyze it real quick and figure out what's the best way to do it. And you're going to fail a little bit. Just go back through why you failed and where you got hung up at. You know, what was the last thing that you did that led to, you know, that relationship not moving forward? And okay, you know, what could I have done better? What could I have said? Just like you would with sales. I mean, that's all we do is sales. Like that's literally it.
Yeah, that's why it really helps to have like a list of suppliers that you plan to reach out to. And that way you're not doing it like kind of iteratively. Like you come up with a list and then you spend like 2 hours just calling, right? And that way you can very easily pivot like your pitch to each supplier, like call after call. Because it can be like small adjustments to like how you start or what you're saying, what you say first. And then you'll see how they react. If that doesn't work out well, then the next call in the next 2 minutes, you'll change it up a little bit. And just take notes about the calls, and that helped me.
Yeah. How much time do you guys spend sourcing? Like
a lot. I'd say, I mean, obviously it changes. Getting started, it was like 10, 15 hours a week, which even getting started, I don't think is a ton. You know, at this point, it's like below 5 hours a week, just because you get better at doing it. So like, and that's like one of my big things is become very effective with sourcing. That way you can get more done in the time you are spending. Because everybody's, you know, a lot of people have full-time jobs and stuff. They don't have 20 hours a week just to source. So you have to become very effective with it to push that business further. But honestly, I don't think it takes that much time.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Like what I do, like at least my method was always like, so I focus on one niche for like a certain amount of time, or one category, and then subcategory, and then so I'd like kind of go down Amazon, and I go on this like this path, this like journey where like I click on one product and then I look at related products, and I keep going through, and if it meets my criteria, like let's say under 50K in a rank, or I have a few different rank requirements based on the category, and then I also check the rating of the product and make sure it's like 3.5 stars or above. That way I don't get the return rates relatively low, and stuff like that. And if it meets my criteria, then I quickly add it to a list. And so I go through just products that have a lot of potential, and I make sure Amazon doesn't sell them. I decide not to deal with. I make sure it has at least like 3 sellers and like less than, let's say, 15 FBA sellers. And then I'll spend time going through each product and finding suppliers associated with it. Either first I try to find the manufacturer, which is just a simple Google search of the brand, and then I find their contact phone number or their email. I always go for the call. So then I come up with a list of phone numbers, and then I spend time going through each supplier, and I quickly make a note of like what product it's associated with. And I asked to open a wholesale account. And I don't start by saying I want this particular product, because as you would imagine, like they probably get a lot of calls about that specific product, probably because every other Amazon seller knows that it's selling well. So I start by saying I'm looking at your product line, and I say it's like a product X, and they have like a lot of products in that like category. Then I'll say I'm looking for that category of products, and maybe I'll bring up another category. That way it seems like I'm interested in their entire product line.
Yeah.
Which you may realize the pricing for some product, it may not sell as well, may not have as good of a ranking, but it has great profit margins. So if you can move a few units a month, it makes sense. And they're usually a lot more willing to work with you when you're kind of interested in their entire product line, even if in the end you only end up like purchasing 2 or 3 of their products at a time.
It still opens that door at least.
Yep.
So like when I'll reach out, I'll kind of word it like I'm looking to expand into the baby niche. And so, you know, doing some, you know, initial research just to see which brands really had the best products. So I'm already complimenting them. You know, actually stumbled upon your brand, and after looking at your product line, I mean, you just have some amazing products, and we would really love to carry them. You know, our customers would really love them. You know, what can I do to open up a wholesale account, kind of thing. So at no point did I mention ASINs. Did I mention, you know, the type of products? It's just kind of like stroking their ego about their brand and what they built and how I just want to be a part of it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I found that to be kind of helpful because initially I was like, yeah, I'm very interested in like this specific product, and they're like,
they're gonna know you're gonna.
It's like,
but even if that is the case, and we go through this, and they're like, well, hey man, you're only ordering like one SKU. Like, you know what? After going through everything and the pricing and stuff like that, this is the only product that I can really move forward with now.
Yeah.
And I'm honest about it. Listen, I'll move forward with all your products if they're profitable enough.
And you have to remember, it's like a sale, right? You're just closing it. The hardest piece is opening that account. And like you say down the line, you start switching over. You only order one series of products. Like that's usually not a problem. And that's the thing. That's like another trick which I found works pretty well. Is that when I call them, they know their numbers. They obviously know how much of their different products are moving each month. And so like I'll see the poor performing products on Amazon. And so sometimes I'll even start by saying I'm interested in those products. And sometimes when they hear that, they're like, oh, so it looks like someone's interested in those products. We haven't been moving a lot of them according to our numbers. And usually it's just sales reps, so they don't have they're kind of just worried about the numbers.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, definitely willing to open an account with you because you're willing to pick up those products. And so then I'll probably once you have that account open, you buy that main product that you're really going for. And maybe I'll pick up a few units or a set of units of that other product because maybe like it just didn't get that momentum on Amazon from the first place or from the beginning. So like you'll kind of just like try to run some PPC ads. It may not work out and you can say you tried, but yeah.
Yeah, and they'll get it too. I mean, if you come to them very honest about everything, like I would love to carry all your products. Like I would love to spend $100,000 a month with you guys, but here's why I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's something we can do to kind of bridge that gap and make that work, I would love to sit down and have a conversation of how we can do that because I want to do more business with you every single month. But for right now, just based off the numbers, this is all I can do that is comfortable for me in my business. They get that.
Yeah.
They're not going to expect you to order 100 units of every SKU that they carry. Like they know that's not how that works.
Exactly.
They don't expect it. They would love for that to happen, but they know that's not the reality of physical products, as a whole. And they get it.
Yeah.
But a lot of things, seem like big hurdles, and they're really not. It's like easy stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, I got an immediate denial. This was through email, and I just sent them back, I'm not a seller and all this stuff like that. And she was like, okay, like I just wanted to kind of test you because we have tons of Amazon sellers reach out to us, and a lot of them we just don't want to deal with. But you took the time to respond back. You really laid out your business for us. Here's pricing. We would love to move forward with you. When can I call you for? And we talked for like 3 hours. I mean, honestly, it was ridiculous after a certain amount of time. But we built that relationship, and she's telling me how where I can get price breaks at, certain discounts, and that was all from a simple follow-up email that took an extra 30 seconds.
Okay.
And honestly, I had it saved as a script in Gmail, like a canned response. So I didn't even have to sit there and like fully write it out. Like it's all the same stuff, So I just said, okay, that sucks. Let's just send this real quick and move on. And then an hour later, I get an email. I'm like, oh, I actually got that. Fantastic. Like, I think I would. And it's like a really profitable and high volume product. So, and that was the point of that follow-up email today is it's simple things like that can really add up and have a compound effect on your business that you don't realize. Like it sounds super simple, like, oh yeah, I know to do that. It's like, yeah, but are you doing it? That's the key difference. Everybody wants to kind of avoid the simple foundation tasks that really add up and make sense. And you can't do that. It's just it's too simple of a thing to help you to not do it, really. And a lot of people just don't because they're like, oh, I didn't get it. It's like, yeah, but that could be a test, like in all honesty, because they do that.
Not follow.
What's that?
follow up for
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Even, you know, because you're gonna reach out to a lot, and a lot aren't just going to respond at all. It's just gonna be silence.
Yep.
You know, reach out again.
And that's the thing. You can't take it like personally. Like this is a numbers game, so it's just like you systematize it. Like that's what I've done. Like any other business, you try to build up a set of systems, and that way you can like outsource it down the line, like or parts of it. Like if you have like a simple set of requirements for like target products, then you literally just like come up with a list of products that fit your criteria. Then you find the suppliers, and then you reach out to them, and you can have like a VA. Give them your criteria for like a potential product, and they'll just go through Amazon and like pick a category, go through Amazon and find those products for you and put them into a spreadsheet.
Do you guys have VAs?
I do.
I did for a little while. Not so much. I don't have any now, but I did for a few weeks, just kind of testing competitor research. So it's another little sourcing tactic.
Yeah. That's just a really good one.
It's a great one. So I'm not sure the morals on it. I can't decide if I'm okay with it or not. But basically, you'll start seeing the more wholesale products you carry, you'll see the same competitors show up.
Oh yeah.
So you could easily click on their storefront and see every product that they've ever carried.
Yeah, that's what I usually do when I source. I just find one product and I just go to everyone's storefront, see what they're carrying.
It's huge.
If it meets my criteria, you know, I just follow that. That's
I mean, you're naturally going to have a higher approval rate just because you know that they're allowing wholesale.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what I would do is have a VA go through that because there's a lot of products that don't fit my criteria or that they carried like 3 years ago that are still on there for some reason. So I would have them go through and basically, you know, find the 2% that are still pretty decent, and then I'll move forward with that. And I would have a spreadsheet that I would just post new competitor storefront links in and just have them go until they ran out.
Yep.
That worked pretty well.
Yeah.
I haven't done it where I have them actually source the way I source. Honestly, I just haven't taken the time to sit down and train to do that. And another reason is like, it's not like I don't have the time to do it. And the amount of time that it takes to get a new wholesale account for me isn't so much that where I'm like, okay, I need to scale at some point, like with another person. So I haven't really had the need for it. But like where James is at, like definitely, you know, get to a point where you're maximizing your capital. You're kind of like, do I get them? Like, do I reach out? Like, should I wait? You know, it's a thing you deal with, and it's kind of odd because you're like, well, I want to keep pushing, but
yeah, and it's good to have options. You have oh, sorry, there's some echo. You constantly like look for suppliers. That way you can cherry pick and find the ones that are the most profitable, and you can kind of like fine tune your profit margin. I would say you're like, I've spent let's say 10K that I spent this 1 month was with like one supplier that wasn't very profitable, so I'll swap just that 10K with like another supplier. I'll split it like 5 and 5 for 2 other suppliers where my ROI is like 5% higher.
Yeah.
Like, very like fine tune. You're like, or say one's out of stock for that month.
Yeah.
You already have one lined up that you can order from. You can kind of optimize your lead time for shipment, optimize your ROI.
Yeah, because you always say like always have that pipeline full, and so kind of where I got to a point where that pipeline was always full. So it's like, do I keep basically piling it up too high, where you know I can't take any action on it.
Yeah.
So you know everybody's in a different situation, but you always you always want to have. I mean, you can have like great products. But then you get a new one that comes in, and let's say your worst product is 25%, but you just got one for 30.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's still profitable. And even if you're maximizing your capital, you still want to switch it over because that's technically more money. That's more growth over time. You know, so you want to do it that way. You know, I could keep that pipeline full by basically sourcing like 5 hours, if not less, per week.
Yeah.
Just because, again, I can sit down for an hour and know that I'm at least going to come out with at least one product that is profitable. Whether or not it's great is obviously depending, but I know I'll find something, at least one product that's profitable, that meets my criteria.
Yeah. And like another way to look at it too is like, it's not just like a lead time and everything. It's like, say you have 10K to spend and you have one supplier, and you know that you can spend 10K and that 10K will give you products that'll last for 30 days or like, let's say 25 days. You have like, let's say like a month or like 5 weeks lead time, like from when you like place the order to when you can place another one because your money's back in your hands. Like you could instead find another supplier with that same ROI maybe, but now you split your 10K into 2 5K orders.
Yep.
And now say that one also takes 30 days to sell out 10K worth of product. But now if you split it up, it's like now you have 5K that's being sold out in like 15 days, another 5K sold out in 15 days. So now you're like, you cut that down. So your money turns around much more quickly with the more suppliers that you have. As long as the only limit to that is, well, some of them may have minimum order quantity.
Yeah.
Like the end goal is actually to order just enough to meet that and have as many suppliers so you kind of like spread horizontally. That way you have like very fast turnaround time. You're flipping your money.
This was a big thing for me that you taught me not too long ago, because I was ordering for 30 days, thinking like, oh, that's fast turnaround time. You're like, no, like 10 to 20 days.
Exactly. That's the.
And, yeah, so I'll aim for like 10 to 15 days. So try to get that 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm placing more orders, but like you said, you know, instead of spending that 10K once for 30 days, I can technically spend it twice within 30 days by. And, you know, I guess the best way is instead of going vertical, you're going horizontal on it.
Exactly.
And that was like a huge thing when I adjusted that. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I'm seeing the profits grow from that.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. Like,
yeah.
It's such a simple thing, but you know, you adjust. And it's nice, you know, because let's say a product, and I've had this happen. You know, a product just tanks. Well, if I've got 30 days. That could be 90 days now. So it's going to take me 3 months to get my capital back and turn it. Like, that sucks.
Exactly.
But if you're doing 10 to 15 days and it tanks, it might be a month and a half, maybe 2 months max. You know, so that's a tremendous amount mitigating that risk if something were to happen. Luckily, with wholesale products, that doesn't happen that much.
Yeah.
And you know, you're trying to source products that are pretty stable and consistent to begin with.
Exactly.
But you never know. Amazon comes on and, you know, hates you and drops price by like 50%.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, cool. That's great. You know, take my best product. That's fine.
And actually, that's something I learned about recently. I've heard about it before too. Is that a lot of times like vendors will prefer not to deal with Amazon. They request the lowest prices, and even though they do order in bulk, the customer support is not too good. So a lot of times like vendors do prefer to work with third-party sellers. And I've heard of a strategy where you go to sellers that have products that are selling very well, and you kind of like, and you know it's being sold by Amazon, so you try to get them to sell to you instead, like migrate over.
I've had
that
happen, not on purpose. I got lucky. It was a fantastic supplier, multiple SKUs, and he's like, yeah, I sold to Amazon, because I questioned it because they were on there like consistent and then just like blanked out, and so I questioned him on it. He's like, yeah, they sucked. He's like, they were terrible to work with. Logistically, it was a nightmare. You know, they wanted to buy a ton and get like a massive discount. But he's like almost to a point where it wasn't profitable for me. But they would only order like once every 6 months. So he's like, yeah, I'm good. So he cut them off completely. And he's like, technically it's still more profitable for me to sell less volume to you, which is the normal market volume, for Amazon to come in and act like, you know, they're doing some crazy volume strategies, but they're really not. Like, so he actually hated working with them, and I'm starting to see a lot of brands not wanting to work with Amazon because of that reason.
Yeah.
So you can use that as a value add.
Definitely. But the only thing with that is that you have to be prepared, because for most listings that do have Amazon on them, they have very few FBA sellers, or the ones that are on there probably don't have too much inventory because they're either at a loss or not selling too much. So you have to be prepared to order like in a pretty large quantity. So it's for more like the more like grown FBA wholesale business. So you can
that's a situation where if you're presented with that and you can have some kind of estimation, you might be able to negotiate some net 30 terms where that makes that possible for you.
That's true.
You know, because it's definitely a terrible situation. It's not terrible, but mentally it sucks when, let's say you can place a $20,000 order and you know you're gonna make like $7,000-8,000 from that order, but you don't have the 20 grand on top of everything else that you're carrying. You're like, what do I do? Like, I don't want to miss out. And you just start where you can, you know, like if you can't spend the 20, but you have 7, great, spend the 7, run out, you know, and just keep churning as fast as you can and throw money back into it until you can spend 20 grand just with that supplier. Okay. Or, you know, if it works out and you could do that for a few months and be like, hey guys, we've been doing well, you know, to really grow, I think it would make sense for us to move to net 30 terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where like business credit comes into play. And that's where you better have like, that's like from the start, as starting a wholesale business, you better have like an LLC or S Corp or C Corp. You don't want to be a sole leadership. Because then you can build that business credit so that you can get those net 15, net 30, net 45 terms.
Yeah, there's just so many things to be creative with, including like the financial side of sourcing your inventory.
Yeah.
Because I've learned firsthand, and I'm seeing it with other people that I'm helping now, is you get good at sourcing, and then you run out of money to spend. But you have that pipeline filled, and you're like, okay, I want to keep going. I've been growing like 40, 50% every month, and now it's like 12% growth. What's happening?
Yeah.
Had a huge upswing, and now you've hit a ceiling. Okay, how do you break through that, right? Like that was my biggest issue when me and James started talking initially. It's like, okay, let's shift from 30 days to 15 days. You know, let's take on payability. So now you have, you know, daily payouts. It's little things that, you know, I mean, super simple to implement too. I mean, really simple, but mathematically help you so much.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And about payability, like if someone mentioned, oh, the 2% seemed insane. I mean, it's kind of like a merchant cash advance. So it's a little higher than normal. The whole point of it is that you don't have to wait those 2 weeks. It really boosts your cash flow. And say you turn around, say your like ROI in a month is like 32%, and payability takes 2% of your the cost of goods sold. So not or actually they do take the total sale. Total sale value, but it doesn't end up being like for the you can really turn your cash around much more quickly with payability instead of waiting for that 2 weeks.
Like you're compounding
that, but I had a spreadsheet that I made. I'm gonna try to release it, and that kind of goes over the math of using payability and not using it. And for myself and my business, it made a lot more sense to do that.
Do they
affiliate or anything? I don't have any affiliate links. It's just a great service.
Yeah. You said they take total sales. Do you mean like?
No, sorry. It's 2% of what they pay you back. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So that ends up, let's say that's like 65% on average. So
okay.
In reality, it's like 1.2%, let's say. And then not only that, I use the payability card for a lot of the purchases, and then you get another 2% cash back on that.
So it negates it.
It basically negates it. Yeah. Do the math that it ends up being like you still pay like I think it's like 0.4%, but
I guess
things it does not matter.
Some professor, he wasn't a math professor. We found out, we did some digging on it. Wrote this blog post saying that basically that 2% compounded, and he did the math and we ran through it and it was completely false. It was like 3,000% a year. We're like, no, it's not compounding. It's 2% of whatever comes through. That's not compounding. And so if that 2% allows you
Yeah.
to compound your money even just by 10%. It's still well worth it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't compound whatsoever. It's not like that 2% goes in some account and then you get 2% on that amount.
No, it's not a negative compound. Like it's not negative interest.
So it's not like a typical like line of credit per se.
Right.
So it works a little bit differently. You have to like it may be like a new concept. It most likely is to a lot of people. So you kind of have to just run it through in a spreadsheet. Like I had a spreadsheet that I put into the group. I think it has a column for that takes into account the 2% payability fee, in another column that takes into account the 2% cash back from the payability card, and you can see how that works out. You can plug in some numbers and kind of like remove and add those columns back and see how it affects your cash flow and each month.
Yeah, I mean it's
huge in my opinion.
Yeah, to me it's a no-brainer. But for some reason, a lot of people are hung up on it, and I was too for the longest time, just because I'm like, I don't know. Like, you know, it's not that I feel for it or against it. I was just like, is it good? I don't know. Like, I have no idea. So it's nice to have somebody be like, yeah, no, I use it and it works and it's helped.
No, they're good. Their support is good. I jumped on that train a while back when they had a very good phone support. Now it's gotten a lot more busy, but it seems like email is the way to go. They don't really pick up the phone as much, or you're put on hold for way too long.
And you don't really need like.
It's just I think they're getting a lot more traffic. So
yeah, and I've never really had to deal with their support. Like everything's just been really smooth. Like even when I changed my bank accounts, I had to upload it and they had to verify it, and it was sitting there waiting. And I just sent my rep an email. I was like, hey man, just updated. You know, what, you know, do we need to get on phone? And he emailed me back. I was like, no, dude, I already took care of it. You're good.
Nice.
Perfect. Took none of my time, sent one email, and business keeps moving forward.
Yeah.
So every morning now I log in and I'm like, transfer. Love it. It's like my morning routine. It's nice, man, because it's, you know, you just have access to those funds so fast. Like
absolutely, yeah. You see them the next day, so it's like they give you access to 80% of those funds, and they give
that 20% release is nice though too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny before I had a pro account, they didn't make you like, I forget how they did it. There wasn't no set like how long they made you wait. It wasn't 2 weeks, obviously, but I waited like 45 days for like 100% of my funds when I got started.
Wow.
And then I got the pro account, like $40, whatever a month, and I got it every 2 weeks. So like, this is great. And then payability, I'm like, okay, dude, 2 weeks is way too long. Like,
yeah.
That is not great.
No, they used to. I know some people had accounts that were grandfathered into. It was like daily payout, and that was pretty crazy. And I know some people used to try to like buy those accounts and you're back, but now they're starting I think they made some mention about them kind of moving those grandfathered accounts away from that daily payout system. So,
dang.
You guys use credit cards? Like one of the things I do to, like before when I started, like I didn't have a lot of money, so you know I know like my payout was gonna be like what, 5,000, 6,000. So I was just using my credit card, and you know, as soon as I get the money back, I would just like pay it back right away.
Yeah, and I know that's like a touchy subject, but I think that's one of the best ways to grow your wholesale business is using the credit cards.
Yeah,
that's how I got started. I had like 2 with a very high limit.
It's really touchy. You know, when I got started, I did the math on it with how much money I had, and if I took nothing out, how long would it take me to be able to make enough to really like pay my bills and stuff? And it was like 3 years. I'm like, no, that's with some assumptions too. Like that's assuming nothing went wrong, which you know is going to happen. But then, you know, I was doing the whole travel hacking thing. So I had like 30 grand in available credit, which I didn't utilize. I utilized like 10. But yeah, I mean, even just talking to tons of sellers, you know, asking, you know, hey man, how do I grow? And like, listen, logically you have one of 2 things you can do. Either take less money out of your business or put more money into it. Like that's it. Like that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And if you can do both, great. But yeah, for a lot of people getting started, you know, you don't have 5, 10 grand laying around. And if you do, that's great. You know, you're still going, like, that's still not a lot. per month. Like you can max that out within like probably 60 days from getting started, you know, if you really, you know, focus in on sourcing right, and buying right. So yeah, it's the fastest way to double your spend.
Yep.
Until you get to a point where you can start taking on like business loans and things like that.
Yep. And then next thing you know, you're going for like an SBA 4A loan.
Yeah, but you have to be in business for 2 years before you can qualify.
Yeah.
So where do you
start that LLC or S corp like as soon as you start, because it builds. And
yeah, immediately.
It builds. So.
But you know, that's pretty much your only options then.
Yeah.
You know, unless you have a friend with cash and it's like, yeah, I'll throw, you know, some private money. If you can get private money, that's great too. But as touchy of a subject it is, everybody gets started that way.
Yeah. I look at I know a big promoter of that like strategy is Sean Henry in the FBA Rockstars group. He really advocates for using personal credit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, here's my thing from a finance standpoint. I would rather use other people's money to make money like every single time. Because even if the return is smaller, I'm not risking anything of my own money, right? So like, would you rather get 12% on your money or 8% on somebody else's money? Well, yeah, 8% is lower than 12, but that's 100% for you because you didn't put none in.
Exactly.
You know, and that's the way I look at it. And you know, it all goes back to if I've only got 5, but I need to spend 20, I got to come up with 15 somewhere. You know, so you realize how little options you actually have.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's an easy decision. I either do it or I don't. And obviously that's a personal decision. I know a lot of people who are, you know, 0 debt ever, 100% cash, don't care. That's great. You do you.
Exactly.
But I promise you, because you can look at the math and math doesn't lie, it's going to take you a very long time.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, the business is super profitable, no debt. I'm like, yeah, but you haven't had a payout in like 2 years. So like, really, what's the point? You know, I mean,
I think it's a smart decision as long as you have like all your accounting like in check. Make sure you have like QuickBooks or some way to track like business expenses and separate business from personal expenses, especially if you're using a personal phone. Keeping track of it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's easy just switch and transition to business cards too.
Yep.
Which is beneficial to have that LLC and EIN number and stuff like that, because it opens up a lot more doors for you. And me personally,
absolutely.
Even though I have a personal card that has $13,000 in available, doesn't mean I necessarily want to put $13,000 and jack up my utilization rate to like 40%.
Yeah,
I probably don't want to do that. And I learned Capital One, even like the Spark, the business card, it's a business card, shouldn't show up on my personal, but it does. So stop using that one. You know, obviously like your credit score is important and it's fluid. It's not static. It changes a lot. So it depends on your situation. Again, everything's situational.
Yep.
You know, if I'm not looking to use my card or my score for a long extended, you know, time, I'll go that route. You know, so it depends. Obviously your credit score doesn't have to be perfect 24/7. You can control that.
Why would you control that?
You know, that's something, you know, dealing with recently is like, I've got this 13,000 available personal. That's a lot of spend. You know, that can really help. So you know, you have to weigh your options and from a business standpoint, logically, you know, figure out what makes sense at that time. With the very bolded asterisk, you're making the right buying decisions. You are mitigating risk. You're not just spending because it's profitable. Like, you really need to understand how to analyze a product and know that it's consistent.
Well, that's good. That means an opportunity for us.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. Can't tell you the amount of people who get started and just, like myself, unfortunately, just like, oh, it's profitable, buy it. And you're like, oh, crap. Like, that was not a great product at all. But yeah, you get good at it. You you lay out like James was saying, you have your systems in place and you abide by them, and you don't break those, because when you break those, you lose money. But luckily, like me and James' buying criteria is pretty much the exact same. Like, which means you can use the exact same ones, which I share like in the blog posts and stuff. So you don't have to create your own. You don't have to figure that crap out. You just it's crazy. Literally do what we do, and that's it. Like there's no trying to figure out it like the business model on your own, trying to design your own systems, like plug into what works. It's really simple in my opinion. It just takes time.
Yeah, I think the most difficult part is just getting the account. That's what you need to do. You know, you just got to get good in sales, and
I'd say that's like, it's probably pushing it, but like 80% of the work is really getting that account, because you know that I think that's really the hardest part, besides obviously like finding good products that you want to reach out to. Because once you get it and you analyze the pricing and stuff, you either move forward or you don't.
Yeah, I know.
Placing reorders and
like that horse.
Yeah, man. Like 5 minutes, like twice a month to place a restock order.
Yeah.
And technically, you could automate that process if you wanted. You could have an automated order form send out every 2 weeks, assuming nothing changed. But
numbers for you and everything.
Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing. You front load a lot of the work, and once you have that account,
yeah, no, but that's the thing you want and do, you know.
You know, then it's
the timetable that she probably doesn't even realize, you know.
I don't know who that is. Hang on, let me. There's some pauses on here, some mutes. There we go. So yeah, so once you front load that work, now it's easy, right? Like you go from, it took you, let's say, like 2-3 hours in total from finding the product to sourcing the product to dealing with the account to get it approved, you know, scanning the price sheet, whatever, and placing that initial order. Now it's just like I said, like I think it takes max like 5 minutes, if that, to place a restock order. Especially if you're not trying to guess your data. Like if you're using a restocking tool to pretty much tell you like, here's how many orders, or here's how many units you need to order.
Yeah.
And when. It's super easy then. I mean,
once you got the accounts, it's like the easiest thing ever. You send it to the prep center.
It's building a portfolio of accounts. That's literally all it is.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And even processing units, you know, if you're going to the prep warehouse, that's even like hardly any time.
Yeah.
You know, because I keep saying it, you know, it takes the same amount of time to process 100 units as it does 10,000 units. Like of your time. Like obviously it's going to take longer periods of time, but your time, it's the same thing. Print out save the SKU labels, email them to your prep guy. He does it. Here's the dimensions and the weight. You plug it in, you get the shipping label, you email it to him, you hit complete, and you're done. Yep. That's about as fast as it takes. You know, it's nice. So, you know, I feel like a lot of people though focus too much time and energy on those little things versus the thing that's not as fun, which is sourcing.
Yeah,
people know a lot, you know, trying to get those accounts, getting better at finding good products before you reach out and stuff like that. But that's what matters. That's what will separate you from still doing this in a few months and doing well at it and growing very well, to still trying to figure it out and wasting time and money. I mean, that's really it. Glad we got some more people on here though.
Yeah.
Last week had me sad, man.
Yeah.
I was all pumped up, had my tea.
Down to the bottom are muted. I don't know if that's intentional.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm late. I actually thought it would start at 9 o'clock.
Oh, you're good, man. No worries. No worries. If you, I muted Kendrick and the other one. I couldn't tell. It sounded like somebody was on the phone, so I just muted. I couldn't tell, but if you guys have questions, obviously like tell me and I'll unmute you. Like this is just a conversation kind of thing, not a webinar. So
Yeah.
Not very cool. But yeah, any questions? I mean, I'm a rambler. I know.
No.
I get excited.
It's the machine. Like wholesale is a good business model.
Yeah.
And again, like Dylan said, it's.
I know you guys spoke about credit cards. So what's a good amount on your first investment? Let's say your first order. What's a good amount on the credit card that you can put in?
So my big thing is mitigating risk. So let's make some assumptions. The product looks fantastic. You, based off the average best-selling ranking and stuff like that, you yourself should be able to move 100 units a month with current competition, right? Let's say the minimum is 24 units for you to buy. Buy 24 units. Even though you can move 100 in 30 days doesn't mean you should initially. You want to test it, right? So I'm going to order 24. I'm going to wait for it to sell through and see how well it actually does, and then I'm going to scale up. Then I might jump to like 65 or something like that and scale up. That way I'm not jumping too deep too fast. Because if you jump in with 100 and then something does change, you're left with a lot more, and you can really kind of screw yourself. So it's not necessarily how much should I spend. It's how can I protect my capital and move forward the best. So you're not jumping in too fast. You want those products to prove to you why you should buy them every month, versus just getting excited. But I mean, if you got $5,000 a month to spend starting out, I mean, it really would depend on the numbers, but have 5 to 10 products that you're looking at, and test them all, and then scale up from there. I mean, James, what's your opinion on that?
I mean, what I would definitely do is like, say I know that a product sells like X amount of units over the course of 20 days. I would start by, and I'm usually very confident in my numbers too. Like you can look at the price history and make sure that's pretty steady. So it's not some sort of trend or some dip. And then I look at the BSR history and make sure that's pretty steady as well. As long as I see those are steady and the BSR is within my comfortable range, then I'll order enough products that I think will sell out. I'll start with an order that's half as much as I think will sell out in 20 days. Order for around 10 days. And as soon as those, it's not that I wait for it to sell out, but as soon as I see that there's some good momentum, the shipment's been checked, received, checked in, in full, and I see that it's moving as much as I think it was going to move, and I see that momentum, then I'll just go ahead and place that next 20 days worth. So I start with 10 and wait to see that movement in inventory, and then I just order the next 20.
Yeah, you're basically looking for confirmations, and you're looking for any bottlenecks through the logistical side. You might ship it in and then something go completely haywire that you couldn't foresee that totally changes that product being profitable for you. And it's better to do that with 24 units than with 75 units. Yeah. But once that's gone through and you're like, okay, nothing went wrong, it is selling like I think it would. Yeah, let's go ahead and place a larger order and move forward with it.
Yeah.
It's just getting that confirmation, because we have this bias where if we think it's profitable, but there sometimes are things we can't see, and you need to go ahead and account for that potentially happening, just because it's totally easy to lose money in this industry if you're not paying attention and protecting that.
Exactly, and you get better over time too. You make better investment decisions. And
because that's really what it is.
What's from you know how to prep certain products, how much packaging will cost. Then once you'll get into bundling and whatnot, and so.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as how much an initial investment should be, it depends on the product itself.
How well it's selling or how many units it's selling.
Yeah. I mean, the way I really look at it is how much do I have to spend every single month, and then do my best to do that as effective as possible. That might happen with 20 SKUs. That might happen with 10. It depends. But for me personally, and I think for James too, like he said, I'm going to order a small amount, make sure it's good, and then I'm going to scale it up. That I think that alone will help you tremendously, because things are going to go wrong. It's going to happen, and you're going to learn a lot from it. But don't do what I did and buy 100 units and have something go wrong. Do it with 12. Do it with 24.
Yeah. And it's like it goes both ways too. It's like you have to
Question.
as soon as you say it sells. Yeah, sorry.
Do you guys believe in as far as drop shipping? Because I had a company. They have a company. They have a website. They actually sell a bit of everything. They sell electronics. They sell clothes. They sell furniture. They sell everything on their website. So, and she was telling me I can actually put in orders for customers and all that. Do you guys is drop shipping actually still profitable? And do you guys still believe in having a website where you can sell your own merchandise, whatever that is?
I mean, so yeah, is drop shipping on Amazon still profitable? I would say yes. However, you're not doing FBA sales, so you're getting like 2 to 5% of total sales on Amazon because you're having to do it merchant fulfilled. So right there, to me, that's kind of a losing business model. But I mean, there are people who do very well with it. It's just you have to scale it super, super wide. So you're gonna have, you're gonna have like thousands and thousands of SKUs on there, and kind of hope that in the grand scheme of things, you're getting enough sales to make sense for it. I would say logistically, that's kind of a nightmare because prices do change, and you have to have software set up to stay on top of that for you and to make adjustments. So you're making sure you're doing well profit-wise. But I would say that the amount of time you would take to do that would be wasteful compared to what you could do with wholesale. And as far as the website to sell your own stuff with, that's better for James just because the way James does it is fantastic, and really saves a lot of time. Versus like you don't have to have like a fully functioning e-commerce website, but like not at all. But like I'll let James explain that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you're asking more about like say like another selling avenue, right? Like actually legitimately generate sales. I mean, I definitely see that as like a route to take, especially like as like a something down the line to like expand, like alongside moving to other marketplaces. Like let's say Walmart, Jet. You can also try to start your own e-commerce site for certain categories and try to drive some traffic there like with ads, like paid Facebook ads, etc. But particularly for like opening accounts, you really don't need a full-on e-commerce site. You just need some sort of static site for your website. It gives you that like level of professionalism. Yeah.
Can barely hear you, but yeah.
Sorry about that.
The thing to keep in mind is that there's a handful of different business models just on Amazon. So you can do retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, private label, drop shipping. In my opinion, they're all profitable, but vastly different. And that's something to kind of, for you to decide which one makes the most sense for you. For some people, drop shipping is fantastic. I love drop shipping, like generally e-commerce business model wise, just because like I'm only going to spend money when I make money, which is amazing, but I would never do it on Amazon myself. Just because Amazon FBA, especially wholesale, is just too easy to me to do anything else. It's plug and play. Like you can be up and running within like 15 days, in my opinion, if you start out right and you're sourcing effectively and stuff like that, and profitable at the same time. I mean, it's that fantastic.
James, sorry, I couldn't hear you when you were talking. You mentioned something about your website being linked to Walmart, right? Is that what you said?
I was saying, like down the line, like another like avenue for like expanding like your revenue is moving on to other marketplaces like Walmart, Jet. So it's like cross listing. So whatever listings you have on Amazon, you can also list on Walmart, and they'll be fulfilled by Amazon. But in terms of your own website, I see that as like similar to expanding to other marketplaces. You can down the line like come up with your own e-commerce store. We're gonna find that most of your sales come from Amazon. So at least that's the case for me. But you could create like I think that you're asking about just to actually generate revenue. But to open accounts, all you really need is just a static site. You don't need a fully functional e-commerce website.
Yeah, it's not going to do much for you. Like, there's really no sense in like trying to develop your own traffic and sales and the logistics of it when you can just keep selling on Amazon.
Yeah, it's all about utilize like all your capital. Don't worry, you're not going to like run out of like if you find the right accounts, like you'll get all your demand from Amazon. So you need to kind of
like as far as expanding to like Walmart and Jet, that's so far down the line.
Yeah.
I mean, for like honestly, and James, I'm curious to see what your opinion on it, but like I think that doesn't really make sense till you're over like the 10 million a year mark, just because like it's something completely different. It's a system that you're going to add onto your current system, and the system that we use like just continues to work and grow, and like, you know, it makes sense to spend, you know, hours sourcing the way we're sourcing for Amazon versus trying to figure out something else.
Exactly.
You know, it makes sense to do something else when you can't grow anymore, when you're literally like, I'm giving it everything we got, I'm capping out, what's next?
Yeah.
That's so far down the line. Like,
agreed.
I mean, people jump on stuff like that way too fast.
Yeah.
It just clouds everything. It gets in the way. It's just noise.
And don't get me wrong, like if that's your way of kind of providing value, like some suppliers may see a lot of value in that, is like you bringing them to other marketplaces. And you want to kind of like buckle down and get that right. I'm sure you could find a way to do it and like cross list and make everything fulfilled by Amazon and have everything in, like maybe get some dashboards set up where you can see all your sales and
I mean, I've yet to even have that as like a topic of discussion, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I would keep in like my back pocket, like last ditch effort. Like, I'll sell you everything.
You guys, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Are you guys selling on another like Amazon, like let's say England, Canada, and Europe? Because I know, James, you mentioned that you follow, and Dylan, you follow Watch Me Amazon.
Yeah, Larry.
He sells a lot of Larry. Yeah, he sells a lot of his products, mostly on England, I believe. I don't know if you guys are like.
Yeah, he sells a lot in Germany, actually.
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. It's really.
I thought it was England.
No, I mean, he sells in England too. He sells in, I believe, 3 or 4 others. But last I heard, he did like the majority of his sales in Germany.
Oh wow, interesting.
I think that's something that I'm interested in. Being able to sell in those markets as well, Germany or even France. I believe that's one market that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering
how to go about doing that. I'm not fully sure. It's not a difficult process. James, do you know it's not difficult, right?
So I looked into it. I actually had a call. I got like an invite to that like program. I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you have like an Amazon account and some sales, I think you probably would have gotten that.
I got it.
I jumped on a call with one of the reps, and they kind of walked me through the process of how to get my products listed. Very basic. They basically handle the entire logistical side of things, down to the pricing. So it's like you end up getting the same amount because they will adjust your price to reflect the increase in fees.
Does it have to be pallets?
It does not have to be pallets, from what I've heard.
That was only my concern.
So, and it's something that it's one of the next steps. And it's something that I'm looking, a lot of my vendors are actually interested in, or a few of them, was that I told them I'd look into the possibility of like bringing their product to new marketplaces, and that's something that I think will work incredibly well over the next like year. Is kind of because these marketplaces are starting to grow very quickly.
Positioned.
So if you can say that, and if you can kind of learn that process and use that as your pitch, use that as your value add, tell them that you're going to bring their product to other like international markets. Again, that depends on what product you're after. Because for some, that may be against what they're looking to do. But for many, like I remember bringing that up as something I would be doing for them, and that was something they were incredibly like pleased to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge value add to say, we're actively pushing the Germany Amazon market.
Yes.
And you can look at the numbers and realize, like, Germany's Amazon market is at right now where ours was like 5 years ago. And you can understand how big of an impact that is. And if you're already in place and set up and positioned there, and you don't have to get new accounts because you're first and foremost looking at your current inventory that you can shift over there. But that opens up just a whole other, growth tactic that really is not that difficult. Like James said, like it's not a crazy process.
Yeah.
You have longer lead times for shipping and stuff, but a lot of your stuff you're going to air freight over anyways. But the process is pretty much the same. It's just, is it profitable there? And obviously you have to look at different currencies. And I know Larry, that's one of his big plays is the currency play.
His a huge chunk of his revenue comes from like international sales.
Yeah, so he's looking at euros and stuff like that, which are way better than the dollar right now. So he's like, I want to get paid in euros and spend in dollars. That's not bad.
It's like a lot of these brands that you're moving over, it's not like, oh, someone there can just start like selling the products and they'll make more profit because they can charge less because they're paying less for the freight. No, it's like we're primarily dealing with companies here. So it's like regardless, our products are coming from the States. So even if other sellers in the future will jump onto that listing, they'll still have that same like freight cost to ship it over.
And you can find products that aren't profitable here, but are.
I've noticed, I've looked through a lot of mine, especially ones where like I've like a lot of accounts and let's say only a few products that I get from each account.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking through the other products in other marketplaces and I was surprised to see how many were actually profitable. And there's some tools out there right now that do have like pretty decent like sales estimates.
Mm-hmm.
UK marketplace, the German marketplace.
Yeah.
And, I was surprised to see like I could end up shipping like a few like pallet loads there every once in a while. Again, that's going to add to.
That's huge. Yeah. I mean,
that's huge.
I mean,
especially for everyone coming in right now, it's an excellent opportunity to get involved with like wholesale, especially if that is what your like main focus is like bringing these brands, like that's your selling point, like bringing these brands to international markets. I think that's huge.
That's a good position to approach them with. Is we're not just on the U.S. market. We actually focus on
just
the upcoming, and obviously we utilize Amazon US, but we're actually focusing on, developing Amazon regions. I mean, that's incredible. And you can source from those Amazon.co.uk, whatever they are, like source from those too. I mean, if you get bored.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest like starting, if you haven't started with wholesale, definitely start in the U.S. because you should. But that's domestic.
You gotta learn the business first.
Yeah,
exactly. Because small parcel delivery is like easy to manage, but when you get to like exporting, it's a little more difficult. Even though FBA does handle a lot of that for you, you just don't want to mess anything up when your inventory is being shipped across the sea.
And LTL alone is annoying. So
I think 20% of my job is like in the morning.
Yeah,
and something that I'm definitely like I'm starting to delegate, but calling these freight companies and making sure they're picking up your inventory because on average I find that they're like a day and a half late. So
my first 2 pallets got lost for 30 days. Lost, as in Amazon didn't know, and the LTL carrier didn't know. Found out they were sitting in a trailer at Amazon's warehouse for 2 weeks.
That's crazy.
The whole trailer. And then they're like, oh yeah, no, it's there. My guys.
Honestly, you really can't take one like rep's answer. You gotta like kind of use your own judgment. Like if it's been a week already and they're telling you that it's being checked in, you just call back the next day at a different time. Oh, there's also a trick about calling at certain times of the day.
Yeah.
Like US based representatives, and they're usually a little bit more helpful only because they have access to
more information.
resources. Yeah. They can contact people more quickly.
Yeah, it's there's
All the
so much
suppliers
growth.
in the U.S.
What was that?
Suppliers, are they all in the U.S. or are they
All of them are in the U.S.
All of them.
A lot of them, I get their products manufactured overseas, but I get them all from the U.S.
Yeah.
Every one of my
Really?
products that I source is from the U.S.
Yeah, I've never sourced anything out of the U.S.
Yep.
Because
Really?
here's the best example. So if I want a wholesale account with Nike, technically, yes, I could go to the factory in China that makes Nike shoes and buy them from them. I could do that. That's also counterfeit. So
yeah, they're probably not going to deal with you. You got to go through like Nike, and then usually you're getting products that are already warehoused within the states, and that's how most of this wholesale model works. Is you're getting products from U.S. based companies, and you're like 10 out of 10 times getting them from from within the states. Like the truck comes from like a warehouse and like drops it off, or from their fulfillment center, because some of them have their own fulfillment centers or ones that they work with.
yeah.
A lot of these brands too, they have distributors. This overseas brand, they have distributor in the US, and there was this brand I called this week, and they gave me the distributor number for the US base. I actually opened an account with them.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I think that's like my model is by no means like the only model. That's actually, I think, a very like another very viable model is to try to source from overseas. So instead of like you were saying earlier, like one option is to kind of like export to other FBA markets from the U.S. Another one might be, in which works incredibly well for some people, including Larry, Wash Me Amazon. Some of his products are products that are sourced from like the UK and brought here to the US.
Yeah.
So you're bringing like international products here, and that works pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much opportunity, and
It's all about like kind of zeroing in on one.
Being really good at that one way of sourcing.
Yeah, and that's why I suggest even for sourcing, when you're like looking for products, when you're just on Amazon.com, like don't try to go for every product. Like pick one niche to focus in, one category.
Mm-hmm.
And go down there, like baby products or grocery, like pick one category to source from.
Yeah, I mean,
that way you can maybe like whip up a website, like a quick like Squarespace site.
Yeah, I was
technical knowledge, just do S3.
I was on Skype with Amanda, who's in our group last week, just kind of going over how to source a little bit because she just has some issues. And literally within 10 minutes, we found a profitable product, got the site. She contacted them. I'm waiting to see if she got the account. But, I mean, it was literally like 10 minutes in.
Oh,
yeah.
We found one, and it was fantastic. Like, everything looking at, the way I would buy that product immediately, obviously depending on the pricing and stuff, but it was a fantastic product. I mean, the ranking was like sub 300, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in no Amazon, consistent sales rank, consistent price, most likely map pricing just from the sellers that I did see. There was not a lot of sellers. And we're like a few pages deep.
Yo, darling, Dylan.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. You've never done it with me.
Well, you gotta ask, man.
Man, that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted, man.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, here's what's crazy though. What I showed her is exactly the same thing that I did in the video for the sourcing blog post, and I actually uploaded it into the Facebook group. Nothing's different.
Yeah.
Like literally, like here's my buying criteria. Here's what I'm looking for. Okay, let's see that in action, and let's find a product. Because in that video, I found a product. And I've actually reached out to that brand. They don't like Amazon, but that's okay. But it's simple. It's simple, but not easy in the sense of you just have to put in that work. You're gonna put in a few hours, not get much, but you get better at it.
Yeah.
Really analyze and take notes on that video and replicate what I'm doing. And I promise you, if you spend 5 hours a week, you will find profitable products just doing that, because that's all I do, and that's pretty much all James does.
Yep.
Like,
did you use
more complicated.
Did you use Jungle Scout or no?
At this point, just go by rank. Keep like camel, keep and like looking at rank like as just like an instantaneous type of thing. So it's like what is the current rank? has the rank been steady? Has the price been steady? And that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
once you have like a good idea of like ranks, you've looked at enough products, you kind of have a good idea of how well a product's going to sell based on just rank.
and as far as like Jungle Scout, like the paid, plug-in and the extension and stuff, like, yes, I use it, but getting started, I recommend you not to. The reason for that is a efficiency and productivity tool. If you're not effective before using that, it will not help you, period. Like, it's just not. So you have to, and I mean, I didn't use Jungle Scout until the past like month and a half, to be honest. So the majority of my growth has been doing it manually, the exact same way I did it in that video. No plugins, no extracting data. What's that?
You got a video on Facebook?
Yeah, it's in the group. Here, let me grab the link for you real quick.
Yeah, please, if you can tag me on there on Facebook, and I'll just watch it tonight.
Awesome.
James, do you have multiple accounts? Like, let's say one of your accounts gets suspended. Like, do you have like a backup account? Like, I've seen a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, I see a lot of people doing like one that I've seen doing that is like Watch Me Amazon. I'm not sure to what extent. I know a lot of people do it, but I don't. I know that you will have multiple accounts when you start exporting to other markets, but I think it's something that unless you have like a valid reason, I really wouldn't enter that area. I feel like that's kind of a quick way to get like suspended.
Yeah.
IP ban you. They'll make sure that any other account that you create in the future will be, as long as it's like tied to you in some way, the bank account will get banned.
Yeah, there's a bunch of sellers that will they'll buy a laptop and like a hotspot and only log in. Like, you have no associations but to that specific account.
Yeah.
And talking with them, they're the same thing. It's kind of risky, but sometimes it kind of makes sense. But I'd rather just have one personally.
It's like, risk and reward, right? So it's like just like it's like kind of, some people may find it risky to deal with like certain suppliers that don't allow you to sell on Amazon, but you do anyways. You take on that risk. There's really not any risk because legally, like first sale doctrine, you can resell products. I think multiple Amazon accounts. I'm thinking that the main reasoning behind that is that like you can get your inventory to move much more quickly. Like when you can share the buy box
with yourself.
You know what I mean? Like say there are only 2 users on a listing and you jump in as the third. You'll get a third of the sales as long as you guys are all within buy box range in that rotation. Whereas like if you enter it with 4 of your accounts, now you have like 2/3 of the sales, right? Because now you have 2/3 of the listings. And it's kind of like a black hat tactic, I think, because I know that some people use it for that strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, too, you could just, like, I kind of stumbled on this because I've seen other competitors, they'll have, like, themselves on a listing twice.
Yeah. You can report that very quickly, and it'll get taken down. I've had that issue with some listings.
I did it by accident where, like, I just added it to my inventory twice, and it gave it 2 different, like, MSKUs.
Yeah.
And I was like, technically, I could list on both of these. But yeah, it gets caught because I mean, it's another little black hat thing, and
definitely try it and like boost sales for a little bit, but just don't make it a pattern because if they see that you keep doing that, they're gonna know something.
Yeah. I don't think it's really worth putting that much effort into. I'm always comparing.
Like, you expand horizontally, you get enough accounts open, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, like I'm looking at if I'm gonna spend 30 minutes to an hour doing something like that may work, or spend 30 minutes to an hour actually sourcing. Where's my best return on my time? And it's going to be sourcing 100%.
Exactly.
It's interesting to learn like how these things actually work, but I'd never really do them because it really doesn't help the longevity of your business. It might be like a quick little, I got an extra like 10 sales. Like, that's great. How's that help me next month? Like,
don't want to get banned. It's the worst thing that can happen.
Dude, oh my God. Yeah, imagine getting suspended with like 30K in inventory.
Yeah.
Wow. And then they ship it all back to you.
Remember is like worst case, like say like you have some products that like just for some reason stopped moving and like you've tried lowering the price and there's some external factor or some reason for why these products stop moving. You can always liquidate them either through like eBay which I've had that happen before. I've very easily liquidated on eBay. Or some suppliers have like a thing in their terms where you can send it back to them. They'll buy it back from you for like a 15% restocking fee.
Yeah.
And so it's not the end of the world. Like you didn't lose all your cash.
Yeah, it's better to lose. You know,
Yeah,
it's better to lose like $500 than like $3,000.
Yeah.
So, and you know that, like I said, that's happened to me. It's part of the learning curve, and I think that's one of like the biggest thing I enjoy about doing like these videos and stuff. Is because if I could just keep one person from making those mistakes, oh my god, I'll have so much karma. I mean, because it is just you do it and you're like, I thought I was smart. Apparently, I'm not. But you learn from it, and you create those systems, and you're like, okay, here's why that was terrible. Won't do that again, and here's why. You know, then it gets really easy. Like you basically want like, oh, there's this great quote. I forget how it goes, but it's basically like the more boundaries you have, the more freedom you have, which sounds counterintuitive, but it makes sense the more you look at it. But basically, like the better buying criteria and restrictions you put on yourself of like why you would buy a product, like it's hard to explain it. Like you just get to a point where things become very easy and simple, because if it's like 3 out of 4, but it doesn't have that last fourth, you're just like, I'm okay. I move on.
Mm-hmm.
It may seem like the greatest product, but that one little red flag, I'm like, no, I'm good. And, you know, it comes super simple to analyze products because a lot of those criteria are at face value, not having to do with pricing and stuff. It's just like, okay, is it consistent price-wise? No, it's all over the place. Okay, I don't care. Move on. You know, those things, having that alone is what initially really changed my business and helped me get to 6 figures, like within the course of like 30 days, because I'm buying better inventory and it's consistent. That's a huge thing. Like if you can start with that, that's incredible. Like it took me 3 or 4 months to get to the point where I even thought about like, I need to have buying criteria. Like I just thought if it's profitable, you buy it. Like, no, that's not how that works. Just like with stocks, you don't just buy a stock because it's a stock. Like, no, like look at the company. Like, is it a good value? You know, like you actually have to like look at it. Like, don't just buy it because it says it's going to return in $3 and you're going to pay 6. Like that doesn't mean anything to me, because it could tank tomorrow and you're going to spend 6 and lose 9. Like it's insane. So
I might have to hop off in like another few minutes.
yeah, you're good. We might end it in a few minutes unless anybody's got some pressing questions.
Are you guys like bundling any products? I tried before, but I wasn't very successful with bundlings.
Yeah, I think it's like there requires a lot of like experimentation, but yeah, I definitely bundle. I think it's just finding the right match, like complementary products.
Do you build out those listings when you bundle, or do you jump on bundles?
Some I build them out, and it's because that keyword for that product already ranks pretty well. And these are usually for products that are selling. Like I'm already getting quite a lot of volume for. Okay. And so when I create a bundle, usually, especially if they're complementary products, like that will kind of jump up in rank pretty quickly.
And that's a good value add for suppliers too.
Or so. Yeah. And then for some, I'll jump on to existing bundles. I remember I had an issue with one where I bundled the exact same 2 products, and then the other seller kind of really started to have, like, he was the only one on that bundle, and I jumped in. I somehow had the accounts for those 2 products. And so they tried to get me off that listing, but in the end, Amazon said these are 2 legitimate products. I do have the invoices for these.
A lot of people treat bundling like private label.
Yeah.
And so they're like, this is my listing. It's like, no, it's not.
Be careful making sure they're the exact same like product and variation of their product. And again, like starting a new listing for bundles is like a solid strategy, especially for selling products, because that is wholesale. You're selling products that are already like known to do well. So when you create that bundle, it's only a matter of time, maybe a week, until that one starts like really picking up momentum and really pick up in sales. And
yeah, and a good kind of segue off that is like making sure the listing, like your product is exactly what the listing is. Like you're gonna have the weirdest customer complaints. Like I had an email yesterday. The person bought from me a year ago an electronic candle. It was like $49. Bought it last November. Says in the email, hey, I know it's past the warranty, but it stopped working. I would like a full refund. And if not, then I hate you, basically.
I would direct
Wow.
I'm like, listen, the warranty was like 8 months. You went over that. You used it the whole time. You didn't complain the whole time. Like, it's an electronic candle. They don't last forever. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But you're just like, you know?
Yeah, usually for that type of thing, it's just like, especially like warranty. Warranty's kind of out of your hands, right? It's something that's
anything about
I see that. Anything that's outside of that window. A lot of times, like if I have the time, or if whoever I have like handling that, like the customer support, like I'll have them, or I will go and find that like the manufacturer's site, send them to there, and then say like, this is where you're gonna have to contact them to deal with a warranty. And then if it starts getting out of hand, or if it's something unrelated, like a return that's a few months after they bought the product, I'll direct them to Amazon, or I'll pull Amazon into that ticket, and I'll have them sort it out.
Because a lot of that's
you pay exactly, and then the fees that you pay are kind of that's you pay for Amazon that type of support, that level of support. So make use of it, right?
Yeah, because you have to understand like a lot of that stuff has nothing to do with you. So like this issue, there's nothing I can do. Like I'm sorry, it's like the company won't do anything because it's past warranty. Like it's a year later. Like
yeah, I just wouldn't even stress about those things.
You know, I barely responded. It was like no response really needed. Like that person is basically just like, I want a free candle a year later because it's the same time frame. So now they want it again because it's seasonal. They don't pay for it, which that's not my problem. I'm sorry.
And that's like another thing where you'll occasionally get like very frequently I get ones that are like, oh, I ordered this product and it said it would arrive by this date and it hasn't yet, or I never received it. Immediately, you really don't have to do anything about those. But it's a good idea to like kind of respond and kind of say that that's out of your control. It was fulfilled by Amazon, and pull Amazon in like and that or close that conversation. And the same thing goes for feedback. You'll get feedback for that too. Anything unrelated to like something that you control, like the quality of the product or something, like anything that has to deal with like shipping time or any feedback related to that, you can. There's like a section of Seller Central where you can quickly get those removed. Usually it's automated. I think they must have text processing, and they can see if like the feedback is related to the shipping time or something like related to shipping quality, and they'll remove that immediately.
Yeah, and that's something you're going to want to utilize a lot, just because obviously your reviews and rankings is very important.
It really does affect your.
It does, and so it's nice. Like I just have one. It was a 1-star review, but had nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just posted it in there. It was one that wasn't automated, but within an hour, they're like, "Yeah, no, don't worry about that. Like, it's a product issue, not a seller issue. So it's going to stay on there on the product, but it's off yours. You're good to go." I'm like,
yeah,
we're back up and running. It's not a big deal.
And that's the thing. Like, I just want to make a quick correction to what I just said. Like your feedback and everything that comes into play, but it's not like when you share the buy box. Like most times, it's like a fair share as long as you're considered a featured merchant, and you're within a certain price of the buy box, and that price varies category to category. For some, you have to be the lowest price, and everyone at the lowest price shares the buy box. For others, it's within 2%. And you see that I heard that from some blog, some App Eagle blog, and they did some research into that. But the thing is that if you get like a 1-star rating, feedback rating, you'll temporarily lose the featured merchant status for some of your listings, if not all of them. And so it'll kind of pull you out of that buy box rotation temporarily until you get that resolved. or so you can quickly, you'll see, like I see like a slight dip in sales if I.
You'll notice it.
Yeah. And that's just Amazon's way of mitigating risks. They pull you away from some of the buy box, or some of the listings as the featured merchant, so you're no longer in that buy box rotation for some listings. That's just their risk mitigation. And so as soon as you resolve that, it kind of throws you right back in for those listings. It's usually the listing that feedback happened to correspond to, or that order corresponded to. All right, guys, I'm gonna head off. So if there's anything more,
I think that's it, man. Everybody good? I feel like we have a lot of topics.
Yeah.
Like some higher level stuff with, like, you know, obviously like going different Amazon, like Germany and stuff. But I think you guys are set, man. It again, just keep plugging along. Reach out to 10 suppliers per day. If you feel like you're getting stuck, rewatch the sourcing video and make sure you're doing it, you know, that exact way, because I promise you that's going to work. And just keep chugging, man. I mean, you'll get accounts. It's good. I mean, if you're not already getting accounts.
Yeah.
Where do you get your suppliers from?
Suppliers? I mean, I source directly on Amazon. So watch that video. I tagged you in it within the group. So when you get on Facebook, you'll see the tag. And just watch that. It's not long. It's like 17 minutes long, but everything from start to finish. It's super simple. But we source from Amazon. It's going to be the fastest, most effective way for you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Cool. So
All right, man.
I'll see you on Facebook.
Good night. Thank you.
Yeah, man. And we'll do it again next Thursday.
All right.
All right. Good night.
All right, guys. Have a good one.